Third down and 20.
And I think right now is a good time to talk about potential players to buy and potential players to look out for. And Frank came upon some interesting stats about wide receivers. You want to share with us what those are, Frank?
Yes. So, for this segment, we are going to be talking about breakout receivers. And for the most part, trying to find guys that will break out, all right? So, just for starters, right? I was using some of the older data. I think the data was from like 2000 to 2011. And that is mainly because everyone is so concerned about using the most recent data that I think that might be skewing our perceptions of Dynasty right now. I understand that offenses have changed slightly in modern times, mainly with the RPOs and its usage in the NFL, but I think that in terms of looking at prospects, we've kind of been a little bit clouded by just looking at all of the recent examples and not looking kind of farther back at the receiver position. So what the data showed, just at the very start, is if you are a first-round pick receiver, you have a 54% chance of having what we call a breakout season. And what we're defining as a breakout season is a top 24 PPR finish. All right? So when we say he had a breakout season or has a chance to break out, that's what it means, top 24 receiver. Second-round pick, you have a 43% chance, just inherently, anywhere in the second round. Third round and beyond is significantly lower. Way lower. Now, in this study that I was looking at, third round and beyond was grouping in undrafted free agents and every other draft pick, so obviously it's going to be lower. But just to keep it simple and short, third round is going to be grouped with everyone else in the NFL. Third round pick, fourth round pick to undrafted free agents. Okay, so let's get into the trends. So, for rookie receivers, 75% of all rookies that finished in the top 40 became a wide receiver one the season after as a second-year breakout, all right? And those receivers that finished top 40 this season are Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, and Claypool, with Jefferson, Lamb, and Claypool already breaking out their rookie season. And what I found interesting about this trend was that if we take this study as its truth, which it is not, basically what they found was that any one of these receivers, it doesn't matter how high they finished in their rookie season, have about the same statistical chances of being a wide receiver one the next season. There was no heavy correlation between a guy finishing wide receiver 1 as a rookie or wide receiver 39 as a rookie and having huge success the next season. Which, going into the takeaways that I found from this, and I kind of want to pose this to you, are guys like Brandon Ayuk and Chase Claypool the cheapest upside you can buy as a receiver in Dynasty? The fact of the matter is that Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb could be going for 2-3 times the price of these guys. Whereas if we're using this study, they have the same chance as being a wide receiver one. Like, is this the cheapest wide receiver one possibility that you can buy in all of Dynasty right now?
So, Frank, to clarify the data, right? According to this study, and that 75% of all rookies that finish top 40 will become a wide receiver one next season. Are we to assume then that roughly 3 or 4 of Jefferson, Lamb, Ayuk, Higgins, and Claypool will be wide receiver ones next year, roughly?
Okay, time out. That was the 70. It was not all rookies that finished top 40. I misspoke. It was 75% of all rookies that ever broke out. If they finished top 40 their rookie season, then they became 75% of them became a wide receiver one.
So then that would just be Justin Jefferson, Lamb, and Claypool would be from this wide receiver group.
That is, so it's looking forward, right? So that 75% is if they ever break out, if they had a top 40 finish, like they became a wide. It basically, there was very few cases, if any, where it was like, okay, they finished top 40 and then don't become don't have success. It's just top 12 receiver. Like, we're talking top 12 finish the next season, right?
Gotcha. Okay. That it's a very interesting study. There's a lot of concerns with the Claypool and Ayuk for me. I've touched on them a little bit, so I'll take the contrarian viewpoint real quick. My issue with Ayuk is that we have Devos Samuel coming back healthy, and you have George Kittle also coming back healthy, and your quarterback situation is very questionable. So I could see a scenario where Ayuk is really the third option on the team in the receiving game, which has me very concerned about what his price will be and what his value will be in the future. I'll say that real quick, and then I'll jump to Claypool. Actually, you know what? I'll stop on Ayuk if anyone wants to defend Ayuk. We could just focus on one at a time.
My favorite part about all this has been the complete role reversal of now Frank being the analytics guy and JT hating on the analytics.
I don't hate the analytics. It's just you always have to have, even when I pull out the analytics, you gotta have a little bit of skepticism coming into it and kind of wonder what causes this data and what makes these wide receivers the good buys that they are.
So I'll defend Brandon Ayuk really quickly, and I'm going to keep it short and simple. The problem isn't whether or not Ayuk or Claypool or any receiver on any team is going to be a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, or wide receiver 3 on their respective team. The only thing that matters is the total offensive production that team will have. Because if a team produces 6,500 passing yards, which is obviously ridiculous, but let's just say that. I mean, they'll have 3 top receivers, whereas if you're on the frickin' Jets and you only have 2,700 passing yards, you may have only 1 top receiver, and that might not even be a top 24 receiver in the league.
So that's where my issue kind of comes with from both teams, right? Because you got the 49ers, who we know Shanahan will just take running backs and just run them into the ground against teams. And then you've got the Steelers, where you were having that kind of production a few years ago, but now it's certainly fallen off. And you also probably have Juju leaving. You have questions of, Roethlisberger, I think, is coming back this year, but then who's the quarterback going to be next year? Can you get that kind of offensive production? So I guess where I'm coming at is there is questions of that offensive production, and then there is questions of where are they even going to be on the order of who are they getting the most production from this offense. So if you're getting the most production on a weaker offense, that's not great. Like if you're the number 1 guy on the Jets, that's still not great. But if you're the number 2 guy on a middling team, then you're still kind of you're stuck in the middle there still. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's where I'm kind of concerned. Although, yeah, Lounis, go ahead.
Finish your point.
No, go ahead.
I will say this, with kind of both of those situations to defend them too, because that was when Frank said that. That's the very first thing I thought, JT. But then as you guys have been talking, I'm just kind of been thinking in my head. I don't think Jimmy G is going to be the San Francisco quarterback past this season. That's just my guess. Obviously, I could be wrong. We've seen when Shanahan can have a quarterback who can really throw it. You saw that Matt Ryan Atlanta offense. You saw the weirdest stat of all time with Nick Mullins, the most passing yards in his first 4 starts. I think when he does get that QB upgrade, it might not happen this offseason, it might next offseason, it might on draft night. I think it's gonna it makes things extremely interesting for both Debo, who Frank is gonna talk about in a little bit, I think, right? With the 3rd year, yeah, and Ayuk.
Way to spoil it,
if they are able.
Way to spoil it.
I didn't say anything about. Hey, you still got your thing. And then with Claypool, there are a lot of question marks about the Steelers' future at quarterback because we have no idea what it's going to be, and they probably won't be early enough to take one of the top drafted QBs.
It's going to be Ben this year. It's going to be Ben this year.
For this year, but I just mean they're probably going to be good with Ben this year to the point they're not going to be in the top 15 or top 12. So it's just that kind of way. I don't know. I just always thought Claypool was the most talented receiver on that team. considering age and like kind of potential also. So I don't hate buying Claypool at all. Like we saw even with the game with it was against Cleveland at the end of the year with Rudolph. He still had a good game. Like I think he's talented enough to produce with kind of not as great QBs. And Big Ben, I mean, is he like, do we consider him like elite still? How big of a drop off?
They throw the fucking ball a ton, so he might be like fantasy elite to a certain extent because dude, they'll throw the ball 50 times a game if Roethlisberger's under center and we can't run the ball.
That's fair.
I do think, though...
He finished quarterback 13 last year. Just for reference.
To sum up these guys, right? These top-tier guys, like, I do think, like, if you're of the belief that they are going to be, like, the breakout players, like, now is the only time you're ever going to really be able to buy them at this price. So Frank brings up a great point there, right? Like, even Justin Jefferson, who had a historic rookie season, like, if you think he's going to sustain that success, like, now's still the time to buy him, because if he gets 2 years of really great production, like, who knows what that price is going to be. Then he's cementing himself as the wide receiver 1, because everyone ranked above him is older than him. And he's getting the wide receiver 1 production at such a young age that who knows how long he could potentially do it for. Even with those top guys, I think now would be the time to buy it. I mean, of those guys that we mentioned, Jefferson, Lamb, Ayuk, Higgins, Claypool, Higgins is actually the one that I'd be going out and buying. Same for Lounis. Who would you guys buy?
Higgins is the one I like the most out of those guys.
Who are you guys buying out of those 5?
I mean, I'm buying Ayuk,
1.
but that's just because I had Ayuk really highly rated coming out, so I might be a little bit biased there. But my whole argument with this was that, let's just say I have 107 or 108, and I really want a receiver. You know, why am I going back and taking the dice roll of that 54%? Once again, we're taking the numbers literally here, which is not true, but let's just do it because it's fun, right? Why would I go out and just say, hey, I'll just take the random 54% dice roll, whereas I could trade that 107 or 108 for Claypool straight up, who has already broken out and has this, according to this study, a huge chance of not just being good, being a top 12 receiver the next season.
Yeah, and in a super flex league, right, to put a name to the face at 107, that sounds like a Waddle, Devontae Smith, Rashad Bateman kind of player would probably be getting drafted around that, as far as receivers are concerned. Maybe, I doubt Jamar Chase falls that far, but it could be a Jamar Chase.
Shouldn't.
Yeah. He should. He probably won't. Thinking about it, even if the top 4 quarterbacks get drafted and top running back, he
might be like an Etienne. You could argue there, maybe a Javonte Williams, but
yeah, but I'm just talking from like a strictly receiver. Like even Devontae Smith might not make it that far. Like you're talking probably Waddle, maybe Bateman territory. So do you think
to even buy Claypool, you could probably give up less than a 107 to buy Claypool, realistically.
You think so?
Yeah.
In this draft, maybe.
What would you?
In this draft, Claypool? You might be able to get him for 108, 109.
Frank,
I don't really
Claypool.
Want to give up Claypool. Now, after reading this, I don't want to give him up.
That's true. You have the data on your side, and you're the one who's
I just found this out like yesterday. Yeah. I'm chilling now. I'm like, hell yeah, give me all the Claypool.
Let's pretend we're living in a world where you don't know this data, and you have Claypool, but you're looking to get involved in this draft. Like, are you giving him up for anything lower than 106?
I think the lowest I would give him up for is to be able to take Rondale Moore. And I think Rondale Moore lasts to like 110, 111.
Yeah.
I've seen drafts where he even goes. I've seen mock drafts where he even goes beginning of second round, like 201.
Okay, yeah, but like this is like my valuation on Rondale Moore.
Yeah, gotcha.
So like Rondale Moore is going to be going that later first area.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. So those were the wide receiver, the rookie wide receivers.
Chips. That's the blue chips.
Yes, the blue chips.
So let's get into the real meat now. So ready? Taking those 5 guys, because everyone knows those 5 guys are good, right? That's not really a breakout. Most of the guys have already broken out. So let's go into for rookies, which there's not a ton of evidence from this study on being able to predict rookies in terms of a profile, but there was one thing that was interesting in that 80% of all second-year breakouts, their rookie season, they finished anywhere from wide receiver 29 to wide receiver 79 on the season. And now let's just look at from this year, who finished from 29 to 79. And that would include Jerry Jeudy, Laviska Shenault, Darnell Mooney, Gabriel Davis, and Michael Pittman just slid in at exactly wide receiver 79. So real quick, before we start talking about these guys, I call them wide receiver 2 breakouts because from the guys that did break out in this study, 67% of them became wide receiver 2s and 33% became wide receiver 1s. That's if they broke out. So looking at this, okay, Jeudy, he's probably priced accurately if people were looking at the study, probably even Laviska Shenault. But we've been harping it all season, and I will continue to harp it. Darnell Mooney and Gabriel Davis are the best buys, not just in they're easily the best buys in a startup. I went out and looked at their ADP. In a draft with rookies involved, Darnell Mooney's startup ADP is... let me get it exactly right.
Has to be in the hundreds. Has to be.
It is the 11th or 12th round, one of the two. 10th round. 10th round for Mooney, 12th round, 11th round for Gabriel Davis. If that is not, just looking at this, if that is not the most unbelievable buy, 10 round plus, if you get both these guys, bang, 10 and 11, holy crap. Like, Jesus, that is upside city.
I mean, just playing with the numbers right here, which we know we're just doing it for fun, but just playing with numbers, you're almost guaranteed a wide receiver 2 at that point because you've got 2 out of 3, which is what the 67% chance is. So, you've got a shot, or sorry, 2 out of the 5 from this one. It is interesting, especially with Mooney is likely going to get a better quarterback at some point. It might not be this year, but at some point he has to have a better quarterback. Gabriel Davis has the opportunity in front of him with older players like John Brown in front of him that he could surpass Cole Beasley, who almost retired even before this year. So those, I do agree. Like, we talked about it, I believe, last week, maybe a couple weeks ago. But, like, when people are always saying, like, Denzel Mims and Cortland Sutton are the buy nows and they're the buy lows, they're not buy lows because everyone is saying it. I have seen Mooney and I have seen Gabriel Davis pop up here and there as buys, but not nearly as frequently. Just, people here and there. And, like, Frank just cements that point with the 10th and 11th round startup. Just, if people are valuing them at that low, like, they're worth the dart throw easily. Anything else you guys got to add?
They're in that weird tier where it's like, if you compare Mooney or Gabriel Davis to Jeudy, people will look at you weird. They'll be like, "Oh, he's not a Jeudy," but like let's just be real with ourselves. Like, I'm at the point where I am really starting to put Gabriel Davis and Mooney at Jeudy, if not above. It's like these guys, and like you said, it reflects in the startup. Really, you would be able to get both of these guys for a first-round pick. Not both of them in a trade, but like either one. If you offer any first-round pick in the draft, I really unless you're trading with me for Mooney, I highly doubt the owner is like, oh, well, I'm not giving Mooney up for a first-round pick. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, the fact is, like,
I'd rather have Mooney than Jeudy, by the way. I'm with you on it.
It's like they are buys, and everyone knows they're buys, but it's not kicked in yet. They're at that point where, like, it's a buy, but I don't want to give up a first for it. So it's like only, Like, dude, if you really want one of these guys, they are very easy to acquire. That's what, for me, makes them a buy. Whether you call it a buy high, a buy low, a buy medium, I don't really care. For the fact that they're not rated as a first-round pick, I think that they are great purchases for any Dynasty team. Mainly in a startup, though, because in a startup, you can just clearly see that they are mispriced, in my opinion.
I don't know if you have this data in front of you. You probably don't. But do you know like what other wide receivers are getting drafted around that kind of point?
I don't know necessarily around that point, but I know that Pittman, Mims, Rager are all getting drafted ahead of them. Obviously, every draft will differ, but consensus is that all three of them are going ahead of them in startups.
And as someone that owns Pittman, you would rather have Mooney over Pittman?
Easily. It's not close.
Not close. Okay.
It's not really that close.
That's some bold takes right there. I mean, to say it's not close, I mean, Pittman is in this wide receiver 2 breakout category with him missing games, a good chunk of games.
I'm also like, okay, now we're starting to get away from the study because I liked Pittman coming out. I'm not selling low on Pittman. It's just I also really liked Mooney coming out, and from the tape that I've seen of the Bears, that's just increased. Dude, I'm seeing Mooney torch great corners, right? Like, Pittman's good, but the thing I don't like about Pittman that I'm really scared of is he was such a good vertical threat at USC, right? What happened to that? It's the same thing with Mims. Mims was a great vertical threat. Like, dude, I'm watching these Jets games. I watched 13 frickin' Jets games back. First off, that is torture. Second off, I watched
Why would you
13
do
Jets
that?
back. I did for the same.
I'd rather get
analysis.
waterboarded.
Oh my god.
And I'm watching game after game after game. I'm like, okay, Denzel Mims is all right. He's good underneath, but like, you drafted him to be the replacement to Robbie Anderson, a deep threat that Sam Darnold could rely on, and neither him or what's the dude? The guy.
Rashad Perryman.
Perryman.
Perryman. Neither of them were able to do it. You could blame Sam Darnold all you want, but I watched the freaking games. They were just as much at fault.
All right, Frank.
I'm getting too crazy here. I'm getting off topic.
let me just to solidify the point though, of like what you're willing to give up for Mooney. Let me just throw you a couple names out. You tell me who you'd rather have, like we played earlier. How about Curtis Samuel or Darnell Mooney?
Darnell Mooney.
OBJ or Darnell Mooney?
You're just attacking all my receivers.
I might be.
What's Kenny Galladay next?
I think it's close. I think I might go OBJ, though. That is really close. Let me see where I have it in my rankings, actually.
While you pull that up, I'll throw another name at you. Tyler Lockett or Darnell Mooney?
Darnell Mooney. I actually have Odell ranked below Darnell Mooney in my rankings, but now that I'm looking at it, it's like, I think Odell's a good buy right now if you can get him, if an owner's wanting to sell.
Okay. Now, for the listeners, I just threw out 3 of Lounis's wide receivers. Lounis, are you selling any of those guys for Darnell Mooney?
Dude, there's no way you can say you're not selling Curtis frickin' Samuel and Lockett for Mooney. You are ridiculous.
I just said Lockett. Curtis, I have to think about.
Come on! Curtis Samuel's a bust.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but like,
he's 20. He's 24 years old and just had 1,000 scrimmage yards last year.
Quietly, very quietly too.
Yeah, like people. Like, he was a wide receiver. I think he was just barely wide receiver. I think he was wide receiver 24 last year. But that's with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson also on the team.
The Panthers'
and he had 1,000 scrimmage yards.
The Panthers' offense was very quiet, but did well.
Like it's. I don't think that's that crazy.
Yo,
it's
Frank,
close.
you got the clown face,
I have
Andy?
to think about it.
What's up? No, I'm talking to Luna. I'm talking to Clownus over here.
Yeah, you got the
I
clown
don't think
face.
that's that.
I'm probably out of consensus. Listen, I'll admit I've just never been a huge Curtis Samuel guy. I freaking love Mooney. Mooney's the boy. Okay, let's go to the second.
Especially
thing,
with free agency, if he ends up somewhere like Green Bay.
Let's get into the other main takeaway I saw from this before we get into third-year breakouts. So, for breakout percentages, right? We separated it into first round, second round, third round plus. I'm going to go through by round when the players themselves break out, because I found this very, very interesting. For first round players, 40%, if they ever break out, you have that 54% breakout. If of those 54%, 40% break out in their rookie year, 32% in their second season. So, 72% of the time, it is their rookie or second season if they ever break out. Third year, 15%. Fourth year and beyond into infinity, 13%. Compare that to the second and third round, right? Second round. if they ever break out, which second round, to remind you, 43% of second round picks will break out. Rookie year, 13% of them will break out in their rookie year. 31% in both their second and third season. If they ever break out, it will be in those seasons. Fourth and beyond, 25%. For third round, it is 4.5% in their rookie season. 26% in each of their second and third seasons. 39% in their fourth and beyond. Takeaway. Higher draft capital receivers have lower shelf life than second round and beyond receivers. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's a very interesting take that a lot of people wouldn't think, but I think what it is basically that these teams draft these receivers high, and if they don't produce immediately, they kind of just say, we tried and move on to the next guy. Well, if you draft a guy with lesser value in draft capital, you draft him in the second or third round or even later, you give him the opportunity to develop because you know this was a project going into it while you expected that first round wide receiver to produce immediately. And if he doesn't, you go, oh, well, we tried.
Yeah, kind of going off Jake's. I think it's because those first-round wide receivers get that opportunity to prove themselves earlier versus a second or third rounder may, it could take a longer time for them to get into, a top two or into the top two receiver on the team or in the starting lineup. So I think that's why we're able to get a better judgment in on those first-round picks because we'll see them way more earlier on.
Yeah, and Frank, I'm not gonna try and step on your toes here, so I'll try and jump around this, right?
Dude, quit stepping on my toes, man.
when we're talking about second round wide receivers who are in their third year, we're now talking about Devos Samuel, AJ Brown, who obviously already broke out, Mecole Hardman, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Paris Campbell, Andy Isabella, and DK Metcalf, who also broke out. So from that, you've only got Andy Isabella, Paris Campbell, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Mecole Hardman, and Devo from 2 years ago who are entering their third year, who are basically looking at their last real shot of breaking out. It would be very unlikely for them to break out the following year.
How close was Devo to be considered broken out his rookie season?
32. PPR 32 is rookie season.
Oh, okay.
Half point PPR, by the way, is what we're using, not full point PPR.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was going to say his rookie year was...
And so then...
Yeah, he kind of came on late.
And so then to look at from this year, that gives you T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., Laviska Shenault, KJ Hamler, Chase Claypool, Van Jefferson, and Denzel Mims. We're all taken in the second round of the 2020 NFL Draft. So these are all the names that we got to look out for as... It's not necessarily a make or break year for 2020, and I just mentioned a few players that already did break out, like Chase Claypool. But these are guys that you have to have on your radar of whether or not you think they're going to break out or not, because especially with the 2019 draft guys, if they don't break out this year, it's probably never going to happen.
So let's get into that. Really quickly, I just wanted to say that I think that this data shows that the second and third round pick receivers are the perfect taxi squad spots. Like I was talking about with Lounis, because Lounis, the other day, you were saying, oh, well, I might trade you Van Jefferson. Well, I would love Van Jefferson, and I think he's a decent buy. If you have him on your taxi squad spot, I think the data shows you should keep him there. Keep him on. Dude, so if we were to take this data as is, as truth, which it is not, I did some basic probability calculations. I found this very interesting. If this data is true, the percentage chance that Van Jefferson breaks out is 37.41%. The percentage chance that Ruggs or Rager breaks out is now 32.4% chance, which is obviously not true. You know, Ruggs and Rager have a better chance of breaking out than Van Jefferson. It is consensus, right? And we probably all agree with that. But it is interesting that the data is saying that these second-year players, these second-round picks and beyond, that don't hit at first, while they may have an inherent disadvantage of their draft capital percentage of hitting, if they don't hit, they still have that shot to hit. Whereas the first-round picks, you don't hit early, man, that percentage chance that you hit really sinks like a rock. and it keeps sinking. So keep these guys in your taxi squads. I think is the overall take. Don't sell them low. Keep them on. You have Van Jefferson. Don't say, oh, he freaking sucked. Terrible pick. Keep him on the damn taxi squad. He had a 13% chance of breaking out his rookie year. He's got 31% back-to-back seasons. Dude, freaking keep him. Okay.
Well, for the record, I wasn't low on him, but I agree with the sentiment that you're saying.
Just an example. Sorry, it's the first thing that came to mind. But now let's get into the third-year breakouts. So, now we get into some interesting stuff, because there were two main cases for third-year breakouts. Of any receiver that broke out in their third year, 75% of them had very little rookie success. Who would have thought? They finished no better than wide receiver 86 in their rookie year. The caveat is they had a massive jump in year two. And the massive jump I defined as at least 33 spots on the PPR wide receiver leaderboard. The other 25% that broke out were top 70 in their rookie season, usually a lot higher. There was one case where a guy finished like wide receiver 69, nice, and then went up a lot, and then dropped out their second season, usually due to injury, and then came back and had a strong year three. So, of all the people that fit these two cases, let's go with the first case first. Jacoby Myers, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Scotty Miller fit the first case very well. The other ones, which are kind of honorable mentions, were Deontay Harris, Travis Fulgham, Jalen Guyton, and Tyron Johnson. The only thing is that they really only needed like a catch to jump up the leaderboards, because they didn't have a catch, or maybe they had like one catch their rookie season. So it's like if you got like 50 yards, you jumped up an ass ton of spots. So Jacoby Myers, Olamide Zaccheaus, Scotty Miller fit the actual profile. For the second case, the drop, did top 70, then dropped out, and then came back in strong year three, right? Devos Samuel and Steven Sims. I'm thinking the best one from the first case is easily Jacoby Myers. I think that this just kind of shows how good of a buy Jacoby Myers actually is. Because, he is another one of those consensus buys, but, like, how much do you really want to give up for him? Dude, like, he could easily do it. He could easily become a top 24 receiver and be a wide receiver 2 on your team. And then for the second case, Devos Samuel. Devos Samuel is like the forgotten gem. It's like everyone kind of is just like, well, he's good, but he's not great. Like, we just all forgot about how much of a stud he was his rookie season. And now his value is just sunk for no apparent reason. I think he's a great breakout case. I bought him without knowing this. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Okay. Listen, Devos Samuel is great when he's on the field. The issue I have with him is he's missed so much time. He missed time in his rookie year when he had this, when he was decent. And then last year he barely played. I cannot, condone buying a guy that has played not a lot of games in 2 years. It's just the best type of player is an available one. He does you no good sitting on your IR. It's just a fact. And that is the only thing I have bad to say about Devos Samuel. In terms of Jacoby Meyer, I do think he's actually a good buy. I think you can get him real low right now just because no one knows what's going on at that New England quarterback spot. And he's going to be, I think probably at worst a wide receiver 2 in New England next year. So I think he is a good buy. I just don't know how the hype of him, all the stats you've been saying, and everyone thinking the same way, how much that will drive his value up. And I wouldn't buy him.
JT, real quick, before hearing this, and it may have warped your mind, what would you have sold Jacoby Myers for as a Jacoby Myers and Patriots fan with some bias in there?
Yeah, I mean, so to give you a little thought process behind my mindset and everything, right? Like, if I was ever going to move Jacoby Myers, he would have been a piece for me that I would have included to move him up. So to give him a value right there, it's kind of hard. Now thinking about this draft class and who I like in this draft class compared to Jacoby Myers, it gets hard for me to try and move him for anything less than like a 208, 207 kind of range, which I think might be kind of high. But like after that, you're getting the same dart throw kind of wide receivers at that range anyway. So it's like I might as well just hold Jacoby Myers. And like from the Patriots' perspective, right? Like we see Julian Edelman, like there was retirement talks possibly of this year. I am pretty confident that he will play this year, but it's definitely not guaranteed next year. I think he's the perfect person to fill in that role, that same kind of role that Wes Welker and Danny Amendola and then Edelman all kind of did. In which case there's a decent floor fantasy value coming from that role. So yeah, like a mid-second, I guess. I wouldn't feel great about moving him for that, but I feel like I'd be way overvaluing him if I asked for anything.
So
more than
206,
that.
you think 206 is getting you Jacoby Myers in most leagues?
Probably, yeah. I'm a very high on him owner. I feel like 206 in most leagues, especially when we come closer to draft time, is like an immediate, like if you went offering someone 206 for Jacoby Myers, they'd be like, sure, take him. Especially if the quarterback situation still isn't clear, and if they go out and sign another wide receiver or potentially trade for one, and not that I really think they will, but those are other reasons that could drive his value down.
He was a 5th round pick, right? 6th round
Undrafted.
Okay,
North
so
Carolina
he fits
State.
easily into that 3rd round plus thing. So like
Yeah.
once again, if we take this statistics for complete truth, which I'm going to keep reiterating, it is not. We're just doing this as an experiment, and it's fun to talk about. Realistically, you could buy him for the 3rd-year breakout, which he fits this profile better than any other receiver in the class, and then he'd still have a higher percentage chance of breaking out in his 4th year and beyond. Just food for thought.
I also like
Just,
Debo.
Frank,
Sorry.
I was gonna ask you, Frank, a question. Who would you rather have right now between Debo or Ayuk?
Ayuk. It's just
still
because Ayuk is like,
100%.
dude, he's that blue chip, dude. He's that, dude, so good.
That's good. That's a good description. Okay, no, I feel the same way. I was just wondering if it, as much as talented as Debo was, I was wondering if, with how good we know he is, and then like kind of these stats, if it made it, did it make it close, or is it still Ayuk by like a good portion?
I think it should be Ayuk by a good portion.
Yeah.
But my question to you, Frank, though, is at the price that they're at, would you rather go out and pay for a Debo or go out and pay for an Ayuk?
Ooh, that is a good question,
That's a good
my
question.
friend, because these are both receivers that I really liked coming out. Oh man. I think I'd still rather pay for Ayuk, but that is really gosh darn close. I think if I'm a competitor, I would rather pay for Debo, but if it's like just in general for value, I have a blank team, Ayuk. I'd rather just shell out the cash for Ayuk. But like if I'm a competitor, I'm looking to get points for cheap, trying to get that chip, give me Debo. The last thing I want to touch on with the 3rd-year breakouts, Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson. How about these guys? I think that these are very interesting buys that you might be able to pick up for like a freaking 4th, for all we know.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Probably.
I own Tyron Johnson, and he's kind of just like that fringe guy on my roster that I'm just kind of holding on to and hoping that he becomes something. So if you are coming to me with, I really don't love 4ths, but even like a late 3rd, I definitely consider it just because, like, at that point, like, maybe I'd rather just have the roster space to then put someone on my taxi squad, like pick them up in the draft and put them on the taxi. So yeah, like, he is basically worth nothing, essentially. Like, a late 3rd to me isn't really worth that much anyway. And, tied to same with Jalen Guyton, both tied to Justin Herbert. There's a lot of smoke about a certain wide receiver getting drafted there or free agency. It sounds like some wide receiver will be coming in there too. Mike Williams, though, I feel like is more likely than not going to leave Los Angeles. So there is a potential for opportunity for these guys. I'd give it the dart throw, especially after hearing these kind of stats.
All right, so that's all the names. Once again, to reiterate, the ones that actually fit the profile were Jacoby Myers, who I like as a buy, Olamide Zaccheaus on the Falcons, who I like as like a waiver pickup or a very end of the draft kind of startup pick, and Scotty Miller. The other ones that kind of fit: Deontay Harris, Travis Fulgham, Jalen Guyton, Tyron Johnson. The second case, Devos Samuel and Steven Sims. For the fourth year, there is absolutely no trend for fourth year and beyond. It is an actual crapshoot. It's actually funny. You have a higher chance of having your breakout season in your fifth year than you do your fourth year. Me and Lounis speculated because you get to leave that team in your fifth year, whether you're a first-round pick or not, because most of the time you haven't broken out. They're not going to take your fifth-year option, so you'll hit the free agency. I just thought we can skip this if you guys would like, but just to make it quick, I'll just name out some names that I think of guys that could break out in their fourth year. Tell me which one you guys like the best. Russell Gage, James Washington, Anthony Miller.
James Washington.
Yeah, I'm on the James Washington bandwagon as well. Juju's out, most likely, so someone has to step up.
Yeah, I'm probably going James Washington. I think Anthony Miller can make it interesting if he ends up being the number 2 in Chicago next year.
Anthony Miller needs a switch in teams. I think his stay in Chicago is well worn out.
It might be, yeah. I was just throwing out the hypothetical. If he's the number 2 next to Mooney and just gets force-fed targets, I can maybe see. But I think James Washington's the better player.
Now that we said
there's someone from this class that's going to break out in their fourth year and beyond.
Now that we said those guys, though, it's going to be Russell Gage, but whatever.
Russell Gage as a quarterback.
Yeah, Russell Gage as the quarterback.
I would have picked Russell Gage. I like Russell Gage. And then fifth year and beyond, it's a super crapshoot. You gotta have to somehow have the intuition to pick up the next Robert Woods. From the draft,
Mike
class,
Williams.
I was looking at, holy crap. I mean, maybe I thought Isaiah McKenzie from the Buffalo Bills. I liked what I saw on tape.
He's in his
from him.
fifth
He's
year.
kind of in a crowded room. Maybe if the Bills can't afford to keep him, because they're going to be paying guys, they're going to have to pay Josh Allen. Maybe he switches teams, gets an actual role, and produces, and you can pick him up for literally nothing. I don't know. Maybe.
I didn't realize he was in his fifth year. I thought he was young for some reason, but I think those guys are interesting. I think has Mike Williams had a top 24 season yet?
He had 1,000 yards that one year. I imagine it was pretty darn close if it wasn't.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I'll look it up.
Okay, so yeah, he probably did.
But I think he.
Because I was gonna say, I could see Mike Williams in like kind of a new system, like succeeding well, but he might have gotten that top 24 that 1,000-yard year.
But that's basically all the research I did.
He did not.
Standard.
In standard, he was receiver 21. In PPR, he was receiver 32. Yeah. It's just because he doesn't catch a lot of balls, so he really hasn't had that breakout by the numbers we're working with here.
Yeah, he's had a 1,000-yard season, and he's had a season with 10 touchdowns. It wasn't the same season, so therefore, he's not going to get top 24. Also, Lounis, I was a little confused too. I think the whole mix-up of Isaiah McKenzie, Isaiah Hodgins is probably what got you. That's what got me.
Oh,
with
okay.
The Buffalo wide receivers. Yeah. But that was I really like that segment. Kind of just doing the deep dive into wide receivers and people that you should definitely have on your radar if you didn't already, and people that you should be paying attention to.
And be patient.
Patience is a virtue.
Unless it's a first rounder, then you don't have to be patient.
Yeah, cutting ties is probably learning when the value is gone and it's just going to keep going lower is another hard thing to realize. And cutting ties